I'm going to give you 3 lots of 3 in a poem. So you're going to find out what that means as we go along. Okay, so 3 things, okay? The first thing is 3 key issues that I think face us at the moment. The trade union bill, austerity and the welfare bill, and refugees and migrants. So on the trade union bill, wasn't it nice to see the Labour front bench sticking it to the Tories yesterday? Not seen that for a while. And also, outside, people protesting. There was a big banner drop by the river, there was people blocking the traffic on Westminster Bridge. A lot of it organised by the rank and file branch-led Right to Strike campaign. I believe a resolution was passed today in Congress. I'm not a delegate, I have to go to work for a living. And I'm hoping that resolution means there's going to be more action and there's going to be proper mobilisation to stop this bill, because I'm not sure it's really protocol to be terribly critical, but what the TUC's done so far isn't enough. It isn't enough. We need to do more. We need to step up our game. We need to fight to stop this appalling bill. And I'd also, the last thing I say on the trade union bill is the very best way to defend any right at all is to use it. Therefore, the best way to defend the right to strike is to use the right to strike, to go on strike, to fight for what you've got. Now, whenever I work on London Underground, whenever we go on strike, we get slagged off. And what we get slagged off for is to say, oh, you're really well paid. Well, why do you think we're really well paid? I mean, some of us aren't really well paid, I must say. But for those who are paid quite well, why do you think they are? It's because we fought for it, and the people before us have fought for it through taking industrial action down the years. The second issue was austerity and the welfare bill, and I think now the tide is turning against the austerity consensus, because we don't have an austerity consensus on the front benches in Parliament anymore, like we have done for the last, I don't know how many years. I was hoping that today, but I think it might be tomorrow, maybe people who are delegates can tell me, there's a resolution from the Disabled Workers' Conference going to Congress today or tomorrow, and that says that in order to fight the Tory attacks on disabled people, we want mass mobilisation, we want to support unions taking industrial action, and we want to take direct action against Tory attacks. I'm not sure the TUC has ever taken policy before to take direct action against Tory attacks, but I very much hope it does, and I very much hope that is carried out, because the defence of public services is absolutely essential to our fight against austerity. And we hear a lot, of course, about how we've got to cut the welfare bill. The government's got to cut the welfare budget. I'm absolutely in favour of cutting the welfare budget. I reckon we could at least halve it overnight, quite easily, right? First of all, we could utterly slash the housing benefit bill by building and providing cheap public housing at private rents, so our money's not going to be subsidising Ratmanite landlords, right? We could significantly increase the minimum wage, so the welfare budget is not going to pay benefits to subsidise low-wage employers. We could pursue a policy of full employment. We could make more jobs accessible to disabled workers who are currently shut out, and that way we'd be spending less of the welfare budget on paying for people to be unemployed who don't want to be unemployed. And finally, we can have free trade unions, because free trade unions win better wages and conditions for workers who then don't have to rely on benefits to subsidise them to get by. So there you go. I think, make sure I write to George Osborne with this plan. I think, here's how to cut the welfare budget in half. See if he goes for it. The third issue I mentioned was about refugees and migrants, and I think it's actually been really warming what an outpouring of support and solidarity there has been amongst working class people in Britain and across Europe towards the refugees and migrants at the moment. It shamed the politicians, it shamed our rulers, but I think we have to admit that many people in our own class still are deeply hostile to immigration. And this is something that we have to fight and we have to take a stand on, because if we allow our class to be divided along national lines, we become weaker, and we let our own rulers, our own government and our own bosses off the hook. And one particular role for us as trade unionists in this is to organise the migrant workers that we have in our workplaces now. Where I work on a central line on London Underground, we have contract cleaners. The contract cleaners are the lucky ones, if you like, Because even worse off than them are the agency cleaners. Don't even know how many hours you're working each week. We've gone out and we've fought and we've organised, and they're mostly migrant workers. And one little victory we won earlier this year is we got the contract company to take on 50 agency staff as direct, secure employees. Still on rubbish paying conditions, but at least on a more secure contract from which to fight. So that was my first three things, was those three issues. The second three things is three things that our movement often says to ourselves about what we have to do, which is to agitate, educate and organise. Agitate, I think we have to get out there agitating against the Tories' attacks, but we also have to, as a movement, we're ever so good at saying no to things. We have to say, you know, as well as what we're against, what we're for. So, let's, for example, let's unite leadership of the new leadership of the Labour Party and the trade unions, the rail unions and the other unions for a big public fight to demand the renationalisation of the railways. But let's not advocate a kind of old-style British rail nationalisation. Let's put an inspiring, positive plan for a railway system that's accessible, that's safe, that's cheap, that operates in the interests of passengers and working class people through workers and passengers control, through a democratically agreed workers and passengers plan. And I think if we agitate for positive, attractive, modern policies like that, we'll get a huge, huge hearing from our own people. Educate. We need to get our people to learn our own history and to learn from our own history. We need to study economics. George Osborne, when he was made the Chancellor, said he had to study economics. That apparently was funny. Now you get a shadow chancellor who actually knows something about economics, and they're trying to rubbish him for it. We need to learn to argue, we need to learn to persuade, we need to learn to debate amongst ourselves in a comradely fashion and to build the confidence of our less confident people to go and argue for our politics. And we need to organise actively out into workplaces, into communities, among young people. And, as a Labour movement, we need to organise democratically. Now, I'm not a member of the Labour Party, I got chucked out. In fact, you could say I got chucked out twice because I'm in the RMC and the whole union got chucked out. Now, Jeremy welcomed people back in his speech on Saturday, and to welcome people back, we need to end those kind of bans and prescriptions and expulsions and get people back involved. The right wing are allowed to organise factions within the Labour Party. Progress is allowed to exist, so why shouldn't left organisations be allowed to exist? And I think my third three thing is the three fronts of class struggle. The ruling class attack us on three fronts. They attack us economically, politically and ideologically. We have to fight back against them on the same three fronts. So economically we strike. My union's got, current or recent strikes on London Underground, Network Rail, South Coast Trains, on the Caledonian McBrain ferries in Scotland. There's the PCS strike in the National Gallery that we can all send our full support and solidarity to. I think even the National Environmental Research Council had a half-day strike the other day. But also direct campaigning action by groups like DPAC and by students. Politically, think we're making a bit of progress there. But as well as getting better political representatives at the top of the Labour Party, we want better political representatives across the board of MPs and councillors, so we have people that fight cuts rather than implement them, people that represent our class as well as the Tories represent theirs, and ideologically, socialism back on the agenda. We have to go out and argue for it. Now, people complain a lot about the things that the press say about our leaders and our movement. Look, there's a phrase, a current phrase that says, haters are going to hate, right? Haters are going to hate. Scandal sheets are going to scandalise. Tories are going to be Tories. Right-wing rags are going to be right-wing rags. That's what they do. Let's go out and do what we do and defend our politics and our class and our movement. And because I couldn't think of a rip-roaring, speechy way to end, and because I write poetry, and because I'm hoping you might buy me a poetry book afterwards. It's only £3 and it's called Mostly Hating Tories, so it's worth it for the title alone. I'm going to end on a poem. So I wrote this poem on Saturday afternoon. Our comrade from America just said that her little boy was running around saying, no justice, no peace. My slightly older boy was running around his house screaming at the top of his voice, Jez, we did. So the whole estate could hear. And I wrote this. It's called Carpe Diem, seize the day, don't stuff it up. Tears of joy from years of anguish, Corbyn's won by a country mile. Let red flags fly and traitors languish, nothing wipes away this smile. The tide has turned in our direction, don't let the cynics interrupt. Democratise, end disaffection, so go for it, don't stuff it up. We've had our times of sad betrayals, suffered decades of defeat. The Blairite train's now off its rails, our movement's getting to its feet. The Labour right is none too thrilled, well, they'll just have to suck it up. But smugness only won't rebuild, so organise, don't stuff it up. The S word's on our lips again, socialism's in the news. Take time to listen and explain, come walk in working people's shoes. Time to blow the blues away. Let struggle rise, campaigns erupt. Carpe diem, seize the day. What's Latin for don't stuff it up? Don't think one man's the one solution. Don't stop as though the job is done. It's only half a revolution. It's not the end, it's just begun. The time ahead will test our mettle. No poison chalice withers cup. Let's stir the dust. Don't let it settle. Go on to win. Don't stuff it up.